Hi guys, I'm Libertman, forced to be alone but free to decide how to live it. Welcome to the first live stream of the day. There is a phenomenon many men recognize immediately but rarely articulate, and it goes like this. You want connection, you think about reaching out, you hesitate, you don't. And afterward, you feel both lonely and relieved. This episode is about that exact moment. Not apathy, not laziness, not lack of social desire, but the collapse of initiative. That is when wanting connection is no longer enough to motivate action. To address this topic, I have selected a study called Implications of Rejection Sensitivity for Intimate Relationships by Downey and Feldman. So let's start reading some excerpts from the study, and then I will start commenting. So Downey and Feldman define rejection sensitivity as the tendency to anxiously expect, readily perceive, and intensely react to rejection in interpersonal situations. Individuals high in rejection sensitivity often alter their behavior preemptively to avoid potential rejection, including withdrawal and reduced initiation of social contact. So this is crucial, as rejection sensitivity does not mean being rejected more often, being socially incompetent, or being disliked. It means anticipating rejection so strongly that behavior changes before anything happens. Initiative collapses upstream of action. The man doesn't reach out because it says, if I reach out and it's ignored, that confirms something painful. So the system chooses no action is equal to no confirmation. This is not emotional weakness, it's threat avoidance. And why this hits men particularly hard? Well, the study itself is gender neutral. We will not falsify the results to adapt to a particular man's reality, but we can contextualize. Men are often socialized to experience rejection as a status loss, as a competence failure, and personal devaluation. So when rejection sensitivity develops in men, it doesn't just hurt emotionally, it threatens identity. Reaching out stops feeling like a neutral social act. It starts feeling like a test of worth for men. At some point, the internal math changes. The old calculation implies that connection might feel good, but a new calculation implies that reaching out risks feeling small. Once that shift happens, initiative no longer feels brave. It feels exposing. So men wait, they delay, they rationalize, and eventually waiting becomes a habit. But why men still want connection? Well, this is not a story about men who don't care. High rejection sensitivity individuals still desire closeness. The desire doesn't disappear. What disappears is the belief that initiating is safe. This produces a painful split. In desire remains and action stops. That split is where loneliness deepens. So how silence becomes self-reinforcing? Once a man stops initiating, then fewer invitations come in, social bonds weaken, and confirmation bias strengthens. The silence then proves the phrase, "See, I was right, not to reach out." But the silence was partly produced by the withdrawal itself. This is the feedback loop Downey and Feldman describe, and it explains why initiative collapse is so hard to reverse. Sorry for if you hear some noises because I'm in a different location today, as usual. And I cannot make it less noisy. So, why this fact is misread by others? From the outside, it looks like disinterest, aloofness, emotional distance, or perceiving as he doesn't really care. But internally, the man may be thinking, if I initiate and I'm unwanted, that's worse than being lonely. So the absence of action is not absence of feeling. It is fear-based inhibition. And why advice like just reach out fails? This is where most social advice breaks down. Just text first. Just ask. Just show interest, bro. This advice assumes that rejection is tolerable, that outcomes don't affect self-worth, and social risk is symmetrical. For rejection-sensitive men, none of that is true. Initiation is not a small step. It is a high-stakes move. So, so far we have been saying that men can want connection deeply, rejection sensitivity can block initiative, silence becomes self-reinforcing, and the issue is not motivation, but threat perception. So, if you've been enjoying this live stream by now, please, this is a good moment to like the live stream, or if you're watching the replay, like the video and subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot to continue creating this content. So now let's see how this pattern stabilizes over time and how different how the different C4PC macro groups express initiative collapse differently. And why some men stop initiating permanently, not just temporarily. So, at first, not reaching out feels temporary, right? So there is a pause, a regrouping, a moment to protect yourself. But over time, the behavior hardens. Men begin to say, I'm just not the type to initiate. I prefer being left alone. I don't chase friendships. This is not personality, this is adaptation. The system rewrites the story to justify the behavior that minimizes pain. So the authors Downey and Feldman show that individuals high in rejection sensitivity often adopt stable behavioral patterns, such as avoidance and reduced initiation, that persist even when situational rejection is absent, because the expectation of rejection alone is sufficient to guide behavior. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of male withdrawal. Men don't need to be rejected again to stop initiating. The expectation is enough. Once the nervous system learns that initiation leads to a possible humiliation, it no longer waits for confirmation. It inhibits automatically. And why initiative collapse feels rational? From inside the mind, the logic feels airtight. If I don't reach out, I avoid awkwardness, I avoid disappointment, and I avoid feeling small. The cost of loneliness feels predictable, and the cost of rejection feels unbounded. So the system chooses the pain it can control. This is not laziness, it is risk management. And why male friendships are especially affected? Well, male friendships often rely on initiation, invitations, shared activities, and unspoken continuity. They rarely survive long periods of passivity. So when initiative collapses, friendships quietly dissolve, and no conflict occurs, no closure happens. Men wake up years later and realize, I didn't lose friends, I stopped reaching. So now let's see how initiative collapse looks by each of the C4PC groups. This is the same mechanisms, but a different expression of it. So in the case of the internal rationals, the typical pattern involves social withdrawal framed as independence and a preference for solitude over uncertainty, and an intellectual justification of their isolation. The internal narrative they say to themselves is connection is inefficient and unreliable. There is a hidden cost to this that is shrinking social world and an increasing emotional rigidity. So their exit path for the internal rationals is to start a low pressure reconnection through shared interests and try to pursue intellectualized social context through projects, learning, and collaboration. In the case of internal emotionals, the typical patterns involves withdrawal after emotional disappointment, silent waiting rather than reaching, and deep longing paired with inaction. Their internal narrative that they say to themselves is, if they care, they reach out. The hidden cost of this is chronic loneliness and unexpressed resentment. So their exit path to this situation is to look for safe and reciprocal emotional environments and to start looking for explicit permission to initiate without judgment. In the case of the external rationals, their typical pattern involves initiative redirected into work or achievements, emotional needs deprioritized, and social life that becomes transactional. Their internal narrative in their head says, connection must be earned or justified. The hidden cost of this is burnout and emotional numbness. And the exit path of this situation would be reframing social initiative as maintenance, not weakness, and to look for structured social commitments. And in the case of the external emotionals, the typical pattern involves cycles of openness followed by withdrawal, initiation stops after perceived disinterest, and ending up in emotional exhaustion. Their internal narrative says, if I give too much and get nothing back. So the hidden cost of this is experiencing instability and impulsive detachment. The exit path to this situation would be to set boundaries around emotional investment and to look for consistent low-intensity connection. So, why waiting to be chosen becomes the default for in this situation for most men, or for a great part of men? When initiative feels unsafe, men adopt a passive strategy that says, if someone really wants me there, they will invite me. This protects dignity, but it also hands agency away, as over time, this creates fewer opportunities, less visibility, and deeper isolation. And what actually restores initiative, realistically? Well, initiative does not return through pressure. It returns through low-risk invitations, through neutral outcomes, and through experiences where reaching out doesn't cost self-worth. Men need evidence that initiating does not reduce my value. Not encouragement, not slogan, just experience. So men don't stop reaching out because they don't want connection. They stop because connection became associated with exposure, with judgment and self-doubt. So initiative collapses, not emotionally, but strategically. Understanding this reframes male withdrawal entirely. If you have stopped reaching out, it doesn't mean you have stopped caring. It means your system learned that silence felt safer than rejection. And rebuilding initiative is not about forcing courage, but about restoring psychological safety in small, controlled steps. So I hope this live stream has been helpful. If it was, please give a like and to this video and subscribe to the channel. Give your comments in the comment section. Much courage, take care, and see you in the next one.